Why does the maple leaf on the Canadian flag have exactly 11 peaks? What percentage of Canadians smoke marijuana regularly? When did Canadians invent hockey and where did they get the rules of the game? What is Cape Spear, the easternmost point of Canada, closer to Paris or Vancouver? Where was James Cameron, one of the most successful directors in the world, born, who has made well-known hits, Titanic, Avatar, Terminator, Aliens, The Abyss, and others? Find out about all this and much more in our video Top 100 Plus Facts About Canada. Canada is the second largest country in the world. Canada is a federation consisting of 10 provinces and 3 territories, with a constitutional, parliamentary, monarchy, with King Charles III or Charles III as the head of state. The largest provinces by area are Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. The country itself is multicultural and multilingual. 2 official languages are recognized at the federal level, English and French. The flag of Canada is a red and white field with a pattern in the middle called the maple leaf, which is the national symbol of Canada. It is depicted with 11 vertices. As the leaf of this shape is the least distorted in the wind, the Canadian authorities conducted special tests in a wind tunnel to establish this fact. The density of the Canadian population is one of the lowest on the planet. There are only 3.5 people per square kilometer. More than 16% of the Canadian population is immigrant, which is approximately 5.5 million people. Toronto is the largest city in Canada with a population of almost 2.8 million people. It is the capital of Ontario and the centre of one of the most populated regions of Canada, known as the Golden Horseshoe. The length of the land border between Canada and the United States is 8,891 kilometers. Canada has the longest coastline in the world, which is more than 200,000 kilometers long. About 90% of the population of Canada lives within 200 kilometers of the border with the United States. The highest mountain in Canada, Logan, 5,959 m, located in the Yukon. Niagara Falls is the highest waterfall in Canada. Its height is 440 meters. An interesting fact is that it is several times higher than the world-famous Niagara Falls, 53 m. The longest river in Canada and one of the longest in the world is the Mackenzie River, 4,241 kilometers long. The largest lake in Canada is Big Bear, located in the Northwest Territories. The national sport in Canada is lacrosse. Maple syrup is one of the most famous Canadian products. Overall, Canada is the second largest exporter of maple syrup in the world after the United States. Vancouver is the only major city in Canada located on the Pacific coast and is often called one of the most picturesque cities in the world. At one time, Vancouver was awarded the title of Best City on Earth 3 times by The Economist magazine. SNOLAB is a Canadian underground research laboratory specializing in neutrino and dark matter physics. It is located at a depth of 2 kilometers in a nickel mine near Sudbury, Ontario. The first chocolate milk was invented in Canada in 1884. Alert is the northernmost settlement in the world, located in the Qaqiktooluk region of Nunavut. It is located just 817 kilometers from the North Pole. The name comes from the sloop, sailing warship HMS Alert, which wintered 10 kilometers east of the present station, near Cape Sheridan in 1875 to 1876. Ottawa has the largest concentration of maple trees in the world. About 90% of Canada's population lives in cities. The CN Tower in Toronto was the tallest building in the world until 2007, 553 m. The St. Lawrence River system is the main inland waterway transportation route in North America. The longest suspension bridge for pedestrians in the world, the Capilano Suspension Bridge, is located in Vancouver. Montreal, Canada, is the second largest French-speaking city in the world after Paris. Canadians invented the winter sport of ice hockey. An interesting fact is that it was invented in the 19th century, and the basic rules are taken from a similar game that was popular in the 10th century. Canada has more lakes than any other country in the world, more than 3 million. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police is one of the oldest police services in the world. Niagara Falls is located on the border between Canada and the United States. According to the United Nations, Canada ranks 4th in the Development Index, which makes it an ideal place to live and raise children. There is the Carcross Desert in Canada, located outside the city of Carcross, Yukon Territory, and is often considered the smallest desert in the world. It covers about 2.6 square kilometers. Canada is the only country where Disney theme parks have not been opened. Canada has 20% of the world's freshwater reserves. About half of the Canadian population sleeps less than normal because they want to stay at work longer, and 33% of Canadians read a book before going to bed. Canada is one of the world leaders in the production of mineral products. Quebec is the largest French-speaking region outside of France. The Canadian Yukon is one of the most remote places on Earth. More than 2% of the total area of Canada is occupied by 43 parks. Banff National Park in Alberta was the first in Canada. It was established in 1885. An interesting fact is that 14% of the population admitted to smoking marijuana regularly. More than 3% of Canadians donate blood each year. Vanier was the first Eskimo city in Canada. The name of the country now known as Canada comes from the Indian word Kannada, which means village or settlement. The Canadian national dish is a pie with meat and potatoes. The first civilian hot air balloon went up in 1793 near Montreal. Without exception, all banknotes in Canada are plastic. There is an island in Canada that consists entirely of cotton dandelions. The Canadian province of Nunavut has the largest concentration of bears in the world. Snowdon is the deepest shelf glacier in Canada. Ontario is the most populated province in Canada with 12.5 million people. The second place is occupied by Quebec with a population of 7.6 million people. More than 7% of Canadians are atheists and do not believe in God. In 1827, the construction of the Rideau Canal began between the Ottawa River and Lake Ontario, connecting them by the shortest route. The construction of the canal was supervised by John By, in whose honor the village of the builders was named. Thus, founded in 1826 as Bytown, Ottawa became the capital of the United Province of Canada in 1857, and 10 years later the capital of the state of Canada. The canoe is one of the symbols of Canada. Saskatchewan's Lake Dore is the largest glacial lake in the world. Dore means walleye in French. The easternmost point of Canada, Cape Spear, is located 1,000 kilometers closer to Paris than to Vancouver. Quinn Island in Canada is home to the largest colony of polar bears. James Cameron, one of the most successful directors in the world, was also born in Canada, in the city of Kapuskasing, Ontario. His 7 films have grossed more than $5.6 billion. He has directed well-known hits, Titanic, which won 11 Academy Awards, Avatar, which won 3 more awards, as well as Terminator, 1984, Aliens, 1986, The Abyss, 1989, and others. The longest ridge in the world, the Canadian Arctic Archipelago, is located in Canada. The city of Calgary in Alberta has a strange weather phenomenon that can cause the air temperature to rise by 10 degrees in a matter of minutes. This phenomenon is called the Chinook wind. Canadians celebrate Thanksgiving in October, not November, as in the United States. One of the most important national dishes of Canadians is the French pudding pie pudding choux. A banknote of 1,000 Canadian dollars is called a weasel. Oshawa is recognized as the automotive capital of Canada. Toronto is the most multinational city in the world. Montreal was founded by French missionaries in 1642. Tourism is the largest industry in Canada. The Ripley's Aquarium in Toronto is the largest indoor aquarium in Canada. The California base was introduced to Lake Ontario in the early 1950s. Lake Ontario is the smallest of the Great Lakes in North America. The Toronto Opera House is the largest in Canada and is called the Four Seasons. Toronto is considered a leader in Canadian television and film production. Fort York is an ancient citadel located in the center of Toronto. Toronto has a system of underground tunnels for pedestrians with a length of more than 30 kilometers. The Canadian dollar is sometimes called the loonie because of the image of a loon on the $1 coin. Quebec City is one of the few cities in North America surrounded by walls. The combined fountain in Montreal is one of the largest in the world. Baffin Island is the largest island in Canada. Its area is 507,451 square kilometers. The population of this island is only 11,000 people. In Ocean Falls, British Columbia, it rains 330 days a year. More whales are born on the coast of British Columbia than anywhere else in the world. The sunniest place in Canada is Estevan in the province of Saskatchewan. The sun shines there 2,537 hours a year. Canada has the world's longest national highway route, the Trans-Canada Highway. The main route covers 7,476 kilometers, 4,645 miles, across the country, one of the longest routes of its kind in the world. The province of British Columbia has the largest number of maple species in Canada, 7. Vancouver, British Columbia is home to the second largest Chinatown in North America. In Canada, a record was set for the length of a dam built by beavers. The length of the structure was 850 meters. The Museum of Anthropology in Vancouver is the largest in Canada and one of the largest in the world. Tens of thousands of snakes mate every year near the city of Winnipeg. On April 19, 1904, one of the largest fires in the world occurred in Toronto. Due to strong winds, it lasted for 9 hours and destroyed most of the central buildings. As a result, 104 houses were destroyed, but fortunately there were no casualties. The kingdom of fungi includes more than 10,000 species in Canada. More species of vascular plants grow in British Columbia than in any other Canadian province or territory. Canada has its own version of the Loch Ness Monster, the Agapogo, in Lake Okanagan. Canada is among the top 10 richest countries in the world by GDP. Most of the total area of Canada is occupied by tundra and forest. The national symbol of Canada is the maple tree. Other symbols are the beaver, raccoon dog, and salmon. There are about 30,000 lakes in Canada with an area of more than 3 square kilometers. The Gulf of St. Lawrence was discovered by Jacques Cartier in 1534. In the middle of the last century in the Canadian province of Alberta was built a site for landing alien ships. More than 80% of Canada's exports are to the United States, its largest trading partner. Canadians consume more macaroni and cheese than any other nation in the world. Canada is home to the oldest known geological formation on Earth, the Acasta Rocks in the Northwest Territories. Canada is home to the world's northernmost sandy beach, the Athabasca Sand Dunes in Saskatchewan. In 1921, two young scientists from Canada, Surgeon Frederick Bunting and his assistant Charles Best from the University of Toronto, isolated a substance called allothrin from the pancreas of a dog and then a calf. The substance was later renamed and the discovery of insulin was announced on February 11, 1922. Canada holds a prestigious title in the world of winemaking. It is the largest producer of ice wines. When grapes are harvested and pressed, the frozen water remains in the form of ice crystals, resulting in a concentrated, intensely sweet juice. Yonge Street in Toronto is the longest street in the world that is entirely located in one city. Originally intended to be a military road, it quickly became the main transportation route for settlers and merchants. The length of the street, including the Bradford-Barrie extension, is 53 miles, 86 kilometers. Churchill is the only port town on the Hudson Bay coast in the province of Manitoba in Canada. The city is located on the ecotone between two ecoregions, taiga in the south and tundra in the north. The town is also known as the sunshine capital of polar bears. Every fall, polar bears return to the city from Hudson Bay. RSO is commonly referred to as the underground city of Montreal. Almost 500,000 people use it every day. It is the largest underground complex in the world. It stretches for 32 kilometers, 20 miles, and covers 4 million square meters, 1.5 square miles. Trivial Pursuit, one of the most popular board games of the late 20th century, in which players answer trivia questions to collect coveted colored plastic wedges. Created in 1979 by Canadians Chris Gainey and Scott Abbott, the game became a social phenomenon in the 1980s. In Canada, there is a park with the largest repository of dinosaur fossils in the world, Dinosaur Provincial Park. Canada is home to the oldest known oil well in North America, in Oil Springs, Ontario. Canada is home to the world's largest collection of canoes, the Canadian Canoe Museum in Peterborough, Ontario. Canada has the largest number of education workers per capita among the G7 countries. Winnipeg is one of the coldest places on the planet. Snow falls in the city not as often as in other Canadian cities, but harsh winds come on time every year. Average winter temperature, -19.2 degrees. Canada is home to the world's largest shoe museum, the Bata Shoe Museum in Toronto. Canada has the world's largest ice castle, Hotel de Glace near Quebec City. About 250 accidents caused by moose occur annually on Canadian roads. In Canada, a special permit is required for the transportation of alcoholic beverages between different provinces of the country. Scientists from Montreal intended to conduct a large-scale study of the impact of pornography on the sexual life of young men under the age of 30. The task, however, proved to be impossible. The researchers were unable to find a single Canadian man of legal age who had never watched porn in his life and could serve as a control sample. In Montreal, the Church of St. Priapus has existed for almost 40 years, and its followers worship the phallus. Canadians love television. They watch it an average of 21 hours a week. Interestingly, about 128,000 homes have plasma TVs even in the bathrooms. One of the most popular foods among Canadians has long been cheese, especially cheddar. According to statistics, every citizen of the country eats more than 10.6 kilograms of this fermented milk product per year. They are also incredibly fond of donuts. Canada has the largest number of shops selling these sweets per capita.